In this video clip, I will explain how to work out the answers to question 12 in Week 8 Lab A. In doing this, you will learn how to request input from the user, how to display a message to the user, using dialog boxes, and read in what the user entered and convert it to a different data type. You'll also learn to create methods that return values, because so far the methods that you have learned, if we look at this, you have learned to put always void in front. That means they are methods that don't return anything. Okay, it's empty. And it only does carry out the instructions that's in here. Maybe it changes variables, does a lot of other things, but it does not actually return anything to the calling method or calling class. So now what happens is we can look at the question first. It says create a method called howManyLeaves, which returns an integer but has no parameters. And this method, we must ask the user, how many leaves would you like in the world? And when they give the number of leaves, we have to return it out of that method to the calling statement. Okay, first of all, I might show you how to actually just do a plain message to the user, just a pop-up dialog box that will just maybe say, welcome to Wombat World. Okay, the dialog method showMessageDialog actually comes from the class JOptionPane. So we have to specify JOptionPane dot showMessageDialog. And now, how do we know what to put inside brackets? And even how do we know how to get this correctly spelled, or how did they spell it originally, and all that information? If you want to find out, you have to go to JOptionPane. That's in here. Go to Help and Java Library Documentation. Right? It's JOptionPane. Scroll down to find what you're looking for. So here it is, JOptionPane, and the message showMessageDialog. And they require 2 parameters, and it does not return anything. You'll also notice that this same name is used in many, like there's many methods with the same name, but there's nothing wrong with that, because the other methods actually have different types of parameters and number of parameters. They're doing different things. So in this case, this is the simplest one. Just put the message in, and you have to put null in this place, because this indicates if you have the the location of the dialog box. But at the moment, if you just type in null, it'll be appearing in around the center of that screen. So we are going to type in null, and then the message, welcome to Wombat World. Okay. And then we'll compile it. Now I want you to see, I purposely did this, or maybe I had it here. I'm going to quickly delete that. If you're going to compile this, there will be an error message. It actually says it cannot find the symbol variable JOptionPane, because it doesn't know what that class is. It's not part of this, nor is it part of Greenfoot. It's not part of the Hungry Wombat. So therefore, we have to specify what I had here before, import javax. In other words, we are telling the compiler where to find this class and the method. Swing.JOptionPane. And now if we compile it, it shouldn't give an error message. Now let's run it and see what it does. Let's use the act method. Welcome to Wombat World. This is it simply. Okay. And now we are going to go back to the program and create that method that we were asked to do in question 12. We need a method called howManyLeaves, and this is supposed to return something. First, I'm going to write the name of the method, and it has no parameters. Now remember, here we used to put void all the time because it didn't return anything. Now when it returns something, we have to know what type of data is it returning. It's returning an integer. We're going to type in int. And now as soon as we create the method name, we will put begin and the end of that method. And most importantly, we'll also put the documentation. So we can say how many leaves. Normally we type in the name of the method, how many leaves asks the user for the number of leaves to be placed in the world, and returns it as an integer. Maybe we don't even have to say that bit, because in the documentation, right, you'd be able to see the int anyway because I've entered it here. Now let's type in, what does it have to do? What's the first thing? Is to give a message. Now this time, this one was just a message dialog, but now we require an input dialog. Okay, we need an input dialog because we are requiring input from the user. So it's still from the JOption class, but it's called show input dialog. But this time you don't need many parameters, you just need one parameter. Let's go and have a look at this again if you want to. This is the one. Okay, show input dialog. Where is that? Yeah, show input dialog. Okay, there's more. There it is. Shows a question message dialog requesting input from the user. But now the most important part in this documentation that I want you to see is this string. It is returning a string. So whatever the user types in, it will be taken, read in as a string and passed out of that method as a string. So even if it's a number that the user enters, we still will take it as a string, and then we need to convert it to an integer if you want to do calculations with it. Like in this case, let's go back to this. So we just have to give the message that we want the user to see. Please enter the, or maybe it's nicer, just quicker. How many leaves would you like? Okay. And then, now that, remember I've always said that if a method returns something, we cannot just call it like the methods that don't return anything. See, this method doesn't return anything. We cannot just call it in one line as it is. Well, if we do, it will still work, but the thing is, it's returning something. We are going to lose the information that it's returning. It's returning a string, so we need to actually store that string. So we can put it into a variable or display it or whatever we want to do, but we got to do something with it, otherwise we lose what it's returning. So let's have a variable called string num leaves, okay, is equal to that. But then now we need to declare this variable. It's of type string. I think I've confused some people. Sometimes if I use the word str, it does not mean it's indicating what data type. I could have just called this X and it will still work. But the reason is it's a meaningful variable name that allows me to understand this is what the user input, number of leaves, but it is still a string. I cannot do any calculations with it. Now I can have another variable of type int that is actually the number of leaves. And then I will specify number of leaves is equal to, now this is the conversion bit. We want to convert this string into an integer. And that comes from another class called integer. And the method is called parseInt. ParseInt is what it does, it parses, it goes through and reads in the string and finds the integer in it. It's not directly converting it, but it finds the integer in it. Okay, So, but most of the time we just use the word converts it. So it converts the string into an integer.